Anna Anderson was the Grand Duchess Anastasia Romanov. She did not get killed in the alleged mass murder in the cellar in 1918. I'm convinced that Anna Anderson was, in fact, as she said she was, the Grand Duchess Anastasia Romanov. In this book, Anastasia by James Blair Lovell, there's different things that the so-called Anna Anderson said, and one of these was about how Russia alternates between a weak czar and a strong czar. She says, there sure will be a czar of Russia again. There is no mistake about this. So as the things are, it doesn't stay forever, never. A Peter the Great must be born again. That's the weak czar, strong czar. So you had the weak czar, Boris Yeltsin, and then you have the strong czar, Vladimir Putin. And it alternates in Russia, weak czar, strong czar. In the United States, we alternate Democrat, Republican. The Democrats recently in power, and then people say, oh no, let's go with the Republicans. So they go with the Republicans. And after a while they say, oh no, forget these Republicans, we'll go with the Democrats. So it's a different thing. Like Russia has weak czar, strong czar. We've got alternating views, Democrat, Republican, Democrat, Republican. In the case of Donald Trump, there's it's slightly different because he's not he doesn't have the support of the Republican Party wholly or completely behind him. So it's a little bit different with Donald Trump. But getting back to Russia, one thing people forget was how in the Civil War, Britain and France were breathing down our necks. And when the Civil War started, France immediately came in and grabbed Mexico in this defiance of the Monroe Doctrine, because they knew that the United States was preoccupied by the Civil War and couldn't do anything about it at the time. Britain and France had designs on the North American continent. They wanted to divide and conquer. There was a George Soros situation back then where both sides got stirred up by foreign agents, and we wound up having a civil war. And it looked bad, but something people forget about Russia is how Russia helped Abraham Lincoln from The Creature from Jekyll Island by G. Edward Griffin. Knowing that war was being considered by his enemies, Tsar Alexander decided to play a chess game of his own. In September of 1863, he dispatched his Baltic fleet of warships to Alexandria, Virginia, and his Asiatic fleet to San Francisco. The presence of the Russian Navy helped the Union enforce its blockade against the southern states. Actually, there's no... The fact that neither France nor England at that time wanted to risk becoming involved in an open war with the United States and Russia led them to be extremely cautious with overt military aid to the South. So Russia helped preserve the Union. But, well, there's one other thing. Donald Trump, in his tweets, which I enjoy reading, one of his tweets said that it's okay to express dissent, and I take him at his word, and I dissent against the torture that there's apparently a condonement of torture by the Trump administration, and I respectfully dissent against that because we're the good guys. We don't torture people. And it goes back to the previous popcorn news and the theory of the id, the ego, and the superego, with the id being the primitive, barbaric part of us all. Thomas Wolfe, not to be confused with Tom Wolfe, but Thomas Wolfe, author of You Can't Go Home Again, was in Nazi Germany in 1936 for the Olympic Games. And Thomas Wolfe was horrified by what he saw in Germany. And especially because Thomas Wolfe loved Germany and the German people more than any one other country in Europe. So he was especially horrified by what he saw there. And what he saw was the id run wild. Hitlerism, wrote Wolfe in You Can't Go Home Again, was a recrudescence of an old barbarism, torture. But this spirit was not confined to Germany. It belonged to no one race. It was a terrible part of the universal heritage of man. One saw traces of it everywhere. It took on many disguises, many labels. Hitler, Mussolini, Stalin, each had his own name for it, and America had it too in various forms. When George Weber, the protagonist, realized all this, he began to look for atavistic yearnings in himself. He found plenty of them. Any man can find them if he is honest enough to look for them. The dark ancestral cave, the womb from which mankind emerged into the light, forever pulls one back. But you can't go home again. You can't go home again to torture, to barbarism, to the id run wild.